7-6, 7-6.
Hello and welcome along to episode 12 of the Tennis Asia podcast, and in this edition it's gold for Qinwen in Paris, a Chinese silver in mixed doubles for good measure. We'll talk Seongchan in Washington and take a look at the latest happenings on the American Challenger swing. My name's Alastair, and joining me as ever, a man who can empathise with French pole vaulters, it is Mr. Tennis Asia himself, Eddie McGee. Eddie, how are you?
Very good, and wow, it's been finally a really eventful week for Tennis Asia. And
it certainly has, probably the most eventful one in some time. We might as well not hang around. We'll start in Paris at the Olympic Games. We were sceptical, of course, about the Olympic competition. We might still be. But in our preview just over a week ago, you did point out that Zheng Qinwen was a genuine medal chance. The only sort of barrier was Swiatek in her draw. She almost came a cropper in a different game as well, but ultimately you were right.
Well, I mean, right as in, I thought she was a medal contender. But obviously having Swiatek in that side of her draw, that was the projected semi-final, and they did meet. But yeah, amazing for Zheng because she actually managed to go all the way. Starting off, it went pretty simply. I mean, as we'd expect, we knew that Zheng, of all Asian players, had a great chance here, given that it's on clay, and also especially because Rybakina had withdrawn and she was in that section. So yeah, Rybakina withdrawing and then getting replaced by Caroline Garcia, who actually ended up losing in the first round anyway to Jacqueline Christian. So it started off great anyway for Zheng because she went up 6-love. Great start against Sara Errani.
About 25 minutes, yeah.
Yeah. And then, straight sets in the second round against Russ of the Netherlands. And then it started to get tricky from the third round because in the third round she faced Emma Navarro and she went down a set, and that was a tricky match in terms of maybe Zhang wasn't...
faced a match point as well, didn't she?
That's right, yeah, and she did, and she had to come back eventually in... Yeah, she was down in and she broke back in that second set against Navarro. Of course, Navarro's the 11th seed, and yeah, she's a tough player. She has weapons. But, I think this was when I started to think, well, this looks a little bit different because I felt like Zheng, let's say, in some of the matches since her Australian Open run to the final, some of the tougher matches, she's maybe, she hasn't done too much since then, but she looked pretty good mentally, I felt, and that allowed her to come back and eventually win that tiebreak. And then once she won that, it was one-way traffic pretty much. I mean, she took that final set 6-1, and deservedly so. Emma Navarro was not too happy.
Didn't take the loss well, did she?
No, she didn't take the loss very well. Had some pretty, pretty mean comments, let's just say, about Zhang, about her not respecting her. And really, it did seem kind of like, I mean, she even said it to her face at the handshake, which is quite something. And it didn't seem like there was anything obviously going on in the match or anything like that. I mean, I think Zhang handled it pretty well when she was questioned on it. I think she said something to the effect of, well, if there's anything, that she has a problem with me, I'd like her to tell me, because I'd like to, maybe I can look at that and maybe try and improve myself or something like that.
Right.
Yeah. But I mean, at the end of the day, I think, it was maybe Navarro maybe not taking that loss too well. But nonetheless, Zhang moves on. Yeah, she goes through and to the quarterfinals. But then she has to face the resurgent Angelique Kerber playing her last tournament, who, by the way, took out Naomi Osaka in the first round. You thought maybe, well, is she going to go further? No, yeah, she kept on going. Kerber went right through, even through Leila Fernandez. Yeah, and then she took the first set against Zheng in a tiebreak again. Tough for Zheng here, because this is really in the middle of the summer for, in Paris, and it was really hot, right? I mean, they were getting some days over, like 32, 34 degrees Celsius, and then daytime matches really hot, and they were given actually quite a lot of time to between the sets to recover. And I think I heard, I'm not entirely sure, but it seemed like they were giving them a bit longer than usual. I don't know if that's specifically because of the warm weather, but also I heard that in this Olympics event that they had slightly different rules in terms of the amount of time they were able to give them. So, but anyway, for Zheng though, she did come back in that second set 6-4. I mean, Kerber was playing really well. I mean, obviously she has that experience. She has the ability to. I mean, she's won some slams, right? And you start to see some of that play come out. She's quite a tricky ball player. She can hit the ball hard. She can take the ball early, and Zheng was having trouble. But again, I felt Zheng handled it very well in terms of mentally. I mean, she went down a break in that final set, and then she came back, and she didn't look flustered. She, and to be fair to Zheng as well, I mean, if you remember before this, she actually won Palermo, the 250 event on clay coming into this. So she had come in pretty good, in good form, and also like having that match practice on clay. Evidently, it worked out for her in this tournament. And she came through eventually in a tiebreak. Another really tough match. I mean, over 3 hours. So she came through that third round and the quarterfinals in 3 hours each. And then it led to, thankfully, she had a day off before she had to play. Oh, no, did she have a day off? I can't even remember now. But no, I think she did have a day off. Yeah. You mean you got the schedule there, but honestly, yeah. Did she have a day off after that? Yeah.
Yeah, I think
and
so.
That probably what she needed because those were long matches. But then she played, of course, the number one seed, the number one Iga Swiatek, who, by the way, she'd played 6 times before and lost all of those matches. I remember the very first time they played, I believe it was at Roland Garros, and that was quite an amazing level from Zheng in that first set because she won a tight tiebreak, but then afterwards Iga steamrolled her, and that's often what Iga can do if she does lose a set. And of course she struggled since then, Zheng, but for her to come into this match, I mean, she started very well, Zheng. I felt that it was interesting actually to hear Zheng talking after the match because she was saying that she tried to approach this one differently and talking about how in previous matches she was always making more winners than Iga, but she was probably going for too much because she was making more errors, right? She was the one with more errors in the match, too many errors. And yes, I think this time she was a little bit more patient and just not going for too much, just getting the balance right. And sometimes you don't always have to hit an outright winner, but if you hit it, I mean, she can hit it so well on that backhand side, especially. I mean, she has power on both wings, but you don't always have to hit an outright winner. If you hit it deep and hard, it can cause trouble, and it did for Swiatek. If Swiatek didn't come out as good as you might expect her to, she definitely seemed nervous. She was making a lot of errors in that first set. I mean, I would say that was partly because of the way Zheng was playing, but and then Zheng, when she had her opportunity, she did break. So Zheng went up 6-2 in that first set, but then Iga came back in the second set. She went up 4-love. I mean, it was partly a little bit of a lax, not very good games from Zheng. But Zheng did very well just to get back into it. I mean, obviously from 4-love to bring it back on serve, and then ended up taking that second set 7-5, and it was quite an amazing victory, really, given what's gone before in this matchup. But I really felt, Zhang, I mean, for all the Chinese players competing, and possibly a bit more than, for some of the other nations, I do feel like the Chinese players, they do feel like the Olympics is an important thing
a big deal
for them.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a big deal. And I would say that's like in East Asia, I would say the team events have a sort of extra significance maybe than maybe some other parts of the world, let's say. But yeah, I mean, especially in China, and I felt Zheng, she really relished being able to do this on the big stage like this, and for her country. Of course, she get onto this tournament because she was a gold medal winner at the Asian Games, and here she continues it to get into the final. So yeah, and then when she got to the final, perhaps unexpected, another finalist was Donna Vekic.
Donna Vekic,
so, the Croatian, and this actually was her first, tour level final on clay. Not only was it a first tour level final on clay for Vekic, I think it was this tournament was the first time she actually reached a semi-final on the clay court.
Right.
So I mean, obviously she's been at the top, near the top 20 for a while, but yeah, that's kind of amazing for her to get all the way to the final here. I mean, she herself came through the second seed, Coco Gauff, and that was the one where Gauff had a bit of a meltdown, let's be honest, over the decision that she thought didn't go her way. I mean, that was actually a correct decision from the umpire. But anyway, Vekic took advantage, and then she still came through Kostyuk as well in the quarterfinals, and perhaps a surprise semi-finalist in Shmedlova. But amazing for Zheng, and she went in as the favourite, against Vekic, clearly. But, I felt, in that final, she was dominant. And Vekic did actually show some nice moments. I mean, she was trying to, especially on that forehand side, she has a really nice forehand when she goes inside out, and she was making her chances, but and there was a few drop shots that she couldn't make, though they were good ideas, but Zheng just has a bit more on each side. The backhand is so good. The forehand, she does have the power, and it sort of is a bit more awkward because it loops up and down. And then also, I think it was, once Zheng got up in that first set, it was difficult for Donna to come back because, Zheng's serve, she was serving pretty well. When she gets that first serve in, she wins most of the points. And yeah, I mean, for Zheng to get through that one, she showed great maturity and, a bit of a fight back from Donna a bit in the second set, but ultimately Zheng, she had a break and she won that final set 6-3. I mean, for Zheng, clearly this is the best tournament of her career so far. Winning an Olympic gold and to get the first victory against Iga, obviously the world number one, as well on the way. And I think it was her first, not only first victory against Iga and a world number one, it was her first top three victory. So she's played like players like Sabalenka, and I mean, of course, that's who she lost to in the final Australian Open. It was quite a one-sided match. And yeah, she's played players like that and she's not come out on top. But now she has, and she managed to do it. Perhaps unusually, in this case, it was Swiatek who was maybe a little bit too nervous. I mean, I guess this is something it's interesting because, maybe seen this before as like some players that they, when it comes down to the Olympics, they maybe underperform a little bit more than you'd expect. I imagine that, we talked about how it's not the biggest thing in tennis, right? Which is what kind of makes it a bit strange, right? Compared to the other sports and what is its place, and it's made worse by the fact that they no longer award points. Back when Nadal won his Olympic gold medal in 2008, I think they awarded about 800 points for winning that, which is almost like a Masters. But I mean, and in many ways, it's for these players though. I think when they actually get down to it, I mean, it's the big occasion. They've probably the feel of being at the Olympics, And obviously, I think it's just pretty cool to be say, you've got an Olympic gold medal, right? So I think, the whole atmosphere and that, and for some players, they take it really seriously. And just an amazing thing though, for Zheng to be able to do that. I mean, in the end, it is upsetting, and as maybe as sad as Vekic seemed, or when she lost to Zheng, and as sad as Iga was. Right. She was crying after she lost to Zheng. Eventually, when they were on the podium, they were all smiling, and they seemed to be able to enjoy the moment of getting each of their medals, which was nice to see. But
I did read a couple of the things afterwards. Apparently, she eats chicken and broccoli 360 days of the year.
Who?
Zheng.
Oh, really?
Yeah, chicken breast and broccoli 360 days of the year. Iron self-discipline.
That's quite incredible. That's obviously nutritious and lean, and I guess it's good for an athlete. To be fair, I can't say I eat it every day. But if I'm feeling like I need to be healthy and I'm going to the gym, I do eat those things sometimes. So maybe
I'm more of a salmon and broccoli man myself, but I do tend to also sort of slather an awful lot of sauce on it, which I think sort of defeats the purpose of it. But I think what you say about, obviously in China the Olympics are definitely a big deal. Winning gold medals is a big deal. And she was essentially a national hero now, more than she would have been had she come through in the Australian Open. I was looking at some of the other sports, looking at the reaction in the Philippines to the I think the double gold medal winning gymnast, and just thinking in a few years' time, Alex Ayala can do something like that. Then that she's going to be a national hero as well. It just, in some parts of the world, the Olympics just means more than just another tournament. I don't think the men's is going to detain us very long. So shall we move straight on to the doubles?
Yeah, sure. Just one thing before we leave Qinwen. I think we can call her Qinwen now that she's won that Olympic gold. But the interesting parallels. That obviously this was at Roland Garros, and she won the gold here after finishing runner-up at the Australian Open, which is actually great parallels with Li Na, because Li Na finished runner-up in 2011 at the Australian Open and then won the French Open that year. So, just thought that was an interesting little parallel, because that's the last big Chinese player to win a major, and obviously someone that Zheng really looks up to. So.
And I think she said that in her post interview. It's like she looked up to Li Na, and she hopes that people were watching her, and will be the next generation will then follow the next generation. I mean, how old is she? She's 22. She's still the next generation, but looking to inspire more. The men's was a bit of a write-off. The men's singles, anyway. Did anyone win a game?
Yeah, for the men, it was tough because Triple Z, Zhang Zhizhen, he ended up getting drawn against Tomasz Machacz, his doubles partner in the first round, and obviously that was a pretty tough one because he's a pretty talented player himself in the singles game. And he lost that one. And it actually ended up being perhaps the one that, maybe had least expectation, was Benjamin Hassan, who got in. He just got in with that universality place. He's representing Lebanon. But he actually beat, and to be fair, I did kind of say that he would have a chance against Christopher Eubanks, because Christopher Eubanks is not someone who performs well on this surface. So on clay, but Hassan. So he got through fairly comfortably, I think. He did come through comfortably. Eubanks and 6-4, 6-2, and then he actually ended up playing Sebastian Baez, and he took him to a third set. So because he lost the first set, won the second, and it went to a tiebreak in the final set. So it wasn't a completely wasted spot, was it? He got a victory and he pushed Baez there. So I mean, he did better than any of the other Asian players. Yeah, Kei Nishikori, he lost in straights to Draper, and Taro Daniel, obviously, up against Casper Ruud. Yeah, he lost in straight sets. But then Nagao, perhaps unlucky, he was drawn against Corentin Moutet. He was up against a very boisterous French crowd, and Moutet was making the most of taking advantage of that. It went to a third set. Yeah, so they were 6-2 sets each. And then, final set 7-5 to Moutet. Yeah, difficult for Nagao. Obviously, it's a big thing for him to be able to represent his country here. But yeah, maybe have better luck in the draw next time if he does play. But not much success for the men's. But the main Asian success, though, that came also for China, which was in the mixed doubles.
Yeah, you mentioned obviously Triple Z going out in the first round in singles, but paired up with Wang Xinyu. It wasn't supposed to be Wang Xinyu originally, was it? Who also actually she had a pretty decent run in singles, but they paired up together. They went all the way. You have to say they did it the hard way as well. There wasn't much straightforward for them.
So like you said, it was Zhang Qinwen and Wang Xinyu. Who ended up playing together in the mixed doubles. But it was originally supposed to be Zhang alongside Zheng Qinwen. So obviously after those long matches that she had in the heat, it was like 3 hours, right? She made the sensible decision to pull out of the doubles and replaced by Wang Xinyu, which is not a bad choice anyway, and perhaps maybe would have made more sense anyway because Wang is a regular doubles player. I mean, she's won even a slam, right? I think with Xie Siwei, but Zhang Zhizhen has his own experience on the doubles court. So it seemed like a very good pairing on paper, and it did actually turn out to be a good pairing, didn't it? Because they went all the way to the final, and if we look through who they beat, I mean, I suppose they got a decent first round in the sense that they had to come. Sorry, they just played another alternate team in Stefani and Sabath Veld of Brazil. However, they did come through that one.
That
eventually
went all the way.
It wasn't yet to the
10-8
the championship
the
tiebreak.
Super.
And then the second round they knocked out the second seeds, which was Perez and Ebden. Ebden, who of course actually ended up clinching the gold for Australia in the men's doubles, right? That was alongside Piers. But so they played them and again went to the tiebreak, but they won 10-5. And it felt like in this tournament that they were sort of getting better as it went along and more comfortable. And then they took out the Dutch team. That was quite a turnaround, that one, because they were down 6-2 and edged the second set 6-4. And then they sort of ran away in that the final set 10-4. So, but big effort from them just to get through to the final because they came back from behind in all of those matches. Unfortunately, they couldn't do that again in the final. They came up against Siniakova and Tomasz Makac, who actually were a couple, and then I thought they broke up, but they seemed pretty close in this tournament. And it worked out well, obviously, for the Czechs because they won in the end. But it was a close one because it went to 10-8 in that final breaker. Nonetheless, I mean, nice tournament for them. I mean, kind of expected them that they might be able to do something, and they've shown it. And I think, obviously, it actually does. Normally, you would say runners up. It must feel not great to lose, right? But you do get that silver medal, and it does count for something. It goes on that medal table, and it's just nice for them.
I think the worst one to lose is the bronze medal.
Yes, for sure. I mean, in some other sports or in the Asian games, they just give them the losing semi-finalists. They give them a bronze each. But I mean, I don't mind the playoff. It makes things exciting, but so it does suck if you have to lose that one. But Yeah, you were
Yeah,
talking about in the singles for the women.
well, Wang Xinyu, she got to, was it?
Yeah, so that's it's not it's a different Wang from who was in the doubles there with Zhang. This
Right.
is Wang Xinyu, similar name,
All
but
right, yeah.
yeah. So they she did all right because she came through against Nozhkova and then she beat Diana Schneider, the 15 seed, in straight sets in the second round. I mean, it's just an honourable mention for her because she eventually lost in the third round, Swiatek. So, but I mean, she lost in straight sets, but I mean, 6-3, 6-4 isn't bad, against Swiatek. But yeah, I mean, on the whole, I mean, outside of Zheng Qinwen, there's not much to talk about, but clearly China was the far and away the best performer in the Olympic tennis this time, and perhaps
Yes,
that's
and
expected.
joint top of the tennis medals table as well. I don't know how, just seeing this. I know we mentioned a couple of sports last week about a bit questionable in the Olympics. Tennis one, golf the other. Just watching last night, the men's final, absolutely packed Roland Garros, and then watching the golf, absolutely packed fairways of that with spectators. I'm just wondering, maybe it does deserve its place after all.
Yeah, I mean it's interesting because we can talk briefly. Yeah, let's say about the men's. Obviously, I think it has a place in the sense that it just does provide a different feeling than a slam does. It attracts a different crowd, and you're talking about the people that are packing at the stadium, but it feels like a slightly different crowd than you would normally get at the slams. Obviously, yeah, people are there to support their nations as well. I mean, that was a great match between Djokovic and Alcaraz. Of course, they were trying to make history. I mean, they really wanted to win those medals, but especially Djokovic. That was like pretty much the only thing that he's not
Right.
had on his CV, and then he got it. So yeah, I think it's just a shame that you've got some top players like Sabalenka or like Rublev or whoever, like they're playing in Washington, right? And it's just a bit of a shame because I mean you could argue that maybe the ATP and the WTA they shouldn't be holding Washington the same week at the Olympics and
Right.
maybe encourage more. And I say that because it's better for tennis as a game if more people play it. I think the Olympics because people want to focus on that. And
It's a massive showcase. That
yeah,
the Djokovic game last night, it was on KBS One. It was on the main broadcast, free to air broadcast here. You never see tennis on KBS One.
that's right. Yeah, so KBS is one of the major. I mean, it's like the equivalent of like
BBC One.
BBC or something, right? Yeah, right. Yeah, so that's here in Korea. Exactly, great exposure for the game of tennis, and it's just yeah. If they actually awarded points, it would help people actually participate. Wouldn't it? It would just take away the. I don't. I mean, obviously that was a disagreement between ITF and the tours there that they stopped awarding
Right.
the points. And then I feel like as well, it's a bit of a shame that they don't do the final being best of five for the men's because that kind of just makes it. I liked it because it made it stand out for a little while from like a Masters, because
Right.
because it just sort of separates it and then just gives it that little bit extra something. But anyway, that's maybe something to think about for what's the next time it's going to be in LA in 4 years' time. So,
In Los
but maybe moving
Angeles.
on
Yeah.
because we can maybe talk about that Washington a bit.
He did, yeah. I mentioned what Washington was going on at the same time. I don't think we particularly would have had high expectations for anyone in that event. Certainly not Hong Song Chan, who entered the qualifiers. And not only did he come through the qualifiers, he went on a little bit of a run afterwards.
Yeah, I mean, amazing for him, really.
Where did that come from?
I mean, he's had a pretty good year, but in terms of like, because he earlier this year he reached like 3 challenger finals, right? So, and then he also qualified, I believe. Yeah, he qualified for Indian Wells, which was his first
Right.
time to qualify the Masters. But yeah, and was it Busan, right? I mean, he got to the final as well, right?
Right.
That we covered that, and he lost to Uchiyama, but he beat some decent players there. But yeah, I mean, coming into that for a few weeks, or a couple of months, he hadn't shown anything particularly any particularly hot form. So yeah, it was maybe coming a little quite unexpected. Although he'd reached the quarters in the Chicago Challenger the week before. But yeah, Hong Sun Chan coming through in the Washington ATP 500 from qualies, where he came through in straight sets against Alex Bolt and Paul
It was
Jubb.
a bit like an Asian challenger in the qualifiers, wasn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. These are players that he's probably used to seeing or possibly even practice against. And then he came through in the first round of 64 against Adam Walton, another guy that's, he won a lot of matches here in the Asian Challenger. So yeah, getting maybe a decent draw, first round helps. And then has to play the third seed, Karen Khachanov. And I mean, I think Khachanov has maybe not been so hot recently, but you kind of felt that I felt that he would be able to get through Hong. I mean, it's a difference in power there and sort of, I mean, level of course, but Hong, to his credit, he's come out with a very strong performance and he won 6-2, 6-4. I mean, Hong is a very and it was evident earlier when I have watched him this year, but I felt that he because he's a smaller guy, but he moves fast, and then he's taken advantage of that in terms of like his fitness, but also I think obviously through experience, his tennis, of playing more higher level guys, that he is able to sort of maximize, because he doesn't have much strength, but sort of maximize how much that you can get out of his strokes. Because I mean, for a small guy like him to get that, sort of maximize the power and sort of try and prevent yourself from getting pushed back too much. You've got to try to really launch yourself and your body into the shots, and your footwork's got to be really good in that. But yeah, he doesn't have that much power, but he gets a lot of balls back, and yeah, it was causing trouble and drawing errors from Khachanov. So, and yeah, I mean, Hong, he's not that big, but sometimes he can hit decent serves, decently placed down the middle and stuff. So, yeah, it's coming all together. I mean, yeah, after that little dip for him, now maybe there's actually a chance for him, because he's now up to a career high near the top 150. Obviously, he's going to have to. We talked about how he's probably going to be joining the army at the end of the year, the military service. So, I mean, that's actually quite amazing for him to be up near the top 150. Maybe this is good for if he can get like some good matches under his belt, possibly even win a challenger. I don't know, because we've got the North American challengers, but then he can perhaps maybe even qualify for the US Open. He'll be looking for that, obviously. Obviously, at this stage, if he can get up, I mean, he's actually about 126 in the race this year, which is it's very good, actually. I mean, obviously, he's never been that high in the actual ranking. So, I mean, yeah, if you can get near the top 100 or even break it, that would be amazing for him. And then obviously to get the protected ranking, which he can get now for military service, if he has something near the top 100 to come back to, that's actually a massive help for him, because you'd get like, I think probably maybe 12 protected rankings that you can use to enter tournament. If you're out for at least 12 months, I think you get 12. If you're out for at least 6 months, I think you get 9. That's on the ATP. So, yeah, anyway, that's looking ahead. But, I mean, yeah, great for him to be able to do that. I mean, that's, yeah.
Another graduate of the Asian swing earlier this summer was Coleman Wong. He certainly hadn't been in the greatest of form, but he went to the Lexington Challenger last week, and he had a great time. He made it through to the semi.
Well, yeah, I mean, he'd been on quite a bit of a losing streak, Coleman Wong. I mean, obviously, there's like a bit of expectation, and obviously, earlier this year, he had good results on the Challenger Tour and from the end of last year. But it kind of went all a bit, let's just say, it went downhill. And it probably didn't help, obviously, that we had the clay and then, and then grass. And it's clear that he didn't adapt well to either of these surfaces. But then coming back, I mean, yeah, he had some bad losses even when he got back to America. A couple of straight sets losses that weren't close, 2-1. But then in Lexington, he finally broke his losing streak, and he came through some tough matches, but then he got through in straight sets again in the quarter final against Mika Braswell. So it's just for him to be able to get back in that sort of level, because he is someone that he probably should be making the latter stages at least of these challenger events. But I mean, he lost to Lee too. It's funny because someone said I was on the Talking Tennis stream for possibly it was during this Zhang match, but someone had mentioned, because obviously they know that I keep an eye on the Asian players and the challengers. Coleman's into the semis, and he should be able to get through that one against Lee Tu. Lee Tu's not much, and I said, I'm not sure about that. It's never easy. Yeah, of course he lost to Lee Tu 6-2 and 6-3. Lee Tu, who actually was the sole challenger champion back in was it last year, the year before?
That's right. Yes,
I think it was 2022, and then he beat Wu Yubing in the final, who ended up becoming China's first ATP champion. So, I mean, that's why I wasn't one to write him off. I mean, these guys, a lot of them, maybe they are challenger level, but they'll have their moments and they'll have their weeks where they hit form. And for Wong, hopefully he's just going to try and build on this from his perspective, going on to, because
he's going to Lincoln, Nebraska. I think the next challenger is he'll start off on Tuesday. I think Bu Yunchao-Kete will be there as well, making his first tournament for a couple of weeks.
Yeah, that's right. So Bu Yunchao-Kete, he's also in the Lincoln Challenger. Do we want to talk about a little bit of the Lincoln Challenger, which is starting this? Should we talk about that?
Well, I mean, the only match I saw that Yunchao-Kete has got Liam Brody in the first round. So I hope that the Bagels at Lincoln are better than they were down in Atlanta a couple of weeks ago.
Yeah, well, I mean, I should maybe just talk a little bit about Bu Yunchao-Kete, because since obviously we had a bit of a few weeks missed with the podcast and stuff, but he did. Boo, he won. He's had a great run in after Wimbledon in the North American challenges, because he lost in Winnipeg, where he got to the semi-final and lost there, but then in Granby he won that challenger title against Terence Atman of France, the second seed. So he won that. Great for him to get a challenger title. And then he reached the final in Chicago. Unfortunately for him, he lost to Diallo, who's the local player from Canada. Yeah, but I mean, he came through some tough opponents. I mean, he beat Job, Michael Zheng, Lerna Tien, who's actually only an 18-year-old, but he's a guy that I think he beat. Did he beat him? I can't remember actually. Yeah, but no. Well, I mean, Boog actually beat him there. Lerner Tien, by the way, he is an 18-year-old, very talented on the rise in America. But and then just obviously, anyway, for Boo, he's shown consistent form. He's getting better with his tennis. I think he's such a good athlete. I mean, he's a strong guy. That's very evident when you see him, and he serves well. And just, I do feel like it's going to happen that he's going to get up to the top 100 sooner rather than later. And let's see, perhaps maybe he can actually go on and do something in the US Open. Maybe he can qualify for his first major this time, where he's obviously comfortable on these hard courts. In Lincoln, of course, Boo is playing. Like you said, he's opening against Liam Brody. Yeah, and pretty tricky for an opener, but I mean, one that I think you'd expect Boo to get through in their current states. Coleman Wong's drawing against an alternate Ethan Quinn, so not too bad a draw for him. And then you've got the Kazakh player there as well, Babit Zhukayev. He's drawn against a wild card, so potentially we've got a round two between Boo and Zhukayev, so an all-Asian second round. That is interesting. Zhukayev, he's a big, tall lad, and he's big serve. He's 6'5" inches tall, so Yeah, and I think possibly some players will get through in the qualies, but that's there are quite a few Asian players there in the qualies. So, yeah,
And straight into the round of 32 is Jacob Fernley. I think you mentioned he's going to be playing doubles with Coleman.
that's right. Yeah, Jacob Fernley newly onto the tour after came onto the tour with a bang, really, because he he won that Nottingham Challenger from qualies, and then he qualified, or he got the wild card for Wimbledon, and then gave Djokovic a bit of a little bit of a scare, and then now here he is playing doubles. I've got to say, Fernley always impressed me with his ability at the net. He seemed really natural at the net, and obviously well trained from his time in America in the college system. I think they do have good coaching there. Wong as well, though, he's someone that maybe you don't always see it as much because you play baseline tennis and that's the way things go these days. But he's also pretty good at net, so it'll be interesting. Yeah, also Wong, pretty tall guy as well. I mean, maybe an interesting partnership there. I don't know if they know each other or what, but definitely interesting. And maybe we could talk about though some women's tennis though.
Yeah, by all means, yeah.
Because we had a Chinese player.
I'm wondering where you're going with this, but
young 20-year-old Chinese player, Wei Sijia. She won
right.
back-to-back ITF titles. That's right. So she won in her home country of China. She won ITF 35 tournament. She came through against Hina Inu of America in the final from a set down. And then going all the way over to America, to Lexington, where she played, which is where obviously we've been talking about Lexington, which is where Coleman was. So it's on the women's side, it's a 75 ITF 75 tournament, but it's played on clay. And is it played on clay? Yeah. So but in this one, she managed to get through to the final and beat a fellow Tennis Asia player that we've talked about before, which is the Thai player Mananchaya Sawankau, who is also fairly young. She's 22. So Wei came through straight
didn't
sets,
drop a set in the entire tournament.
Yeah, so it's pretty impressive for her coming and doing that. She's only 20 years of age. She's on the up, so she's also a player that she's now up to a career high 150 in the rankings. It'll be interesting to see, how she continues. Obviously, I'd imagine she's going to be playing more tournaments in America coming up, and obviously you're at 150. You get in a good position there. You might be able to get into. If she goes up a little bit further, you might be able to get seeded for the qualification for the US Open, which she should be in. And then as far as that goes, though, I think that we've pretty much covered everything, haven't we? So is there anything else you'd like to talk about?
I think the only thing you wanted to mention was Jason Tseng of Taiwan. He had a good run in San Marino last week. I think he got to the final, didn't he? I don't think he won.
That's right, yeah. It's been a bit of a... it's difficult on the tour. You can go up and down, but definitely this year has been this sort of Jason Tseng back on the rise, or Zheng Qinwen, his full name. Yeah, so... Yeah, because recently he'd done all right because he played in UMAG, the 250, and qualified, and then he beat Fabio Fognini 6-1, 6-love in that first round. Fognini, I didn't see that match, but he can be a bit erratic sometimes. But Menchik though dished out his own bagel to Zheng in the next round in the quarterfinal. That was 6-love, 6-4. Obviously, Menchik is a very very high quality player, and who actually ended up losing though in the next round to Musetti. But yeah, obviously Musetti also doing very well. He won the bronze medal, didn't he, at the Olympics? So
Yeah.
For Jason Tseng though, he just got to the final in San Marino. I mean, Maestrelli players that he beat, yeah, pretty good. Comsana, the number 2 seed from Argentina, he beat from a set down and he lost in the final to the 3rd seed Alexandra Muller. So it was a pretty good level of opponent that he's playing, and eventually losing into the final tie break. But I think for Jason, that puts him again closer to the top 100. He has been in the top 100 before. 83 was his highest ranking. Now he's at 122. It's reasonable to talk about getting to the top 100. Obviously, that would be great for him if you get there by the end of the year. Then you get you into the Australian Open directly. Certainly clay is the surface where he just gets the best out of his game. It's kind of amazing that we have. I mean, it's one of the reasons, surely, that we have so much Italian talent, and these days. How many Italian players do we have in the ATP Top 100? And of course, recently we've got also got Jasmine Paolini doing well on the women's side. But I mean, they have so many tournaments. I mean, obviously San Marino's. It's not technically Italy, right? It's not Italy, but then it's within
within the confines of Italy, yeah.
But they have so many tournaments, right? And it's quite amazing. So, and someone was joking on the Talking Tennis stream that they're going to have a challenger in the Vatican next because they have so many tournaments.
We're obviously pretty much bearing down on the US Open now. We're into the month of the US Open. Coming up in August, we've obviously got the 1000s in Montreal and Cincinnati. Although I dare say Winston-Salem is probably more up our street as a 250. And obviously the women will be going to Canada as well. Our sort of podcast mascot. Uchijima will be in the qualies, and I think Naomi Osaka and Ons Jabeur in the first round. Is that right?
That's right. So we've got the Canadian Open, the men's and the women's, being played at the same time. The men's in Montreal, the women's event takes place in Toronto. We've got the first round. An amazing first round. Obviously, Osaka, her ranking is not as high as it used to be, so she's unseeded and she gets in here with a wild card, and then she's drawn against Ons Jabeur, the number 9 seed. Obviously, that is just a cracking first round. I mean, hard to say because I don't think Jabeur's been particularly hot recently, and I don't think since Osaka. She had played that amazing match against Iga Swiatek, the French Open. She didn't ultimately win. Since then, she's had a couple of good matches, but nothing, no amazing runs or anything, nothing to set the world alight. Obviously, she just lost in the Olympics final. But obviously, this is hard courts now, though, where she will feel much more comfortable. That's her surface. So maybe Osaka could actually do something here. As far as hopefully for the spectators, we've got slightly different contrasts and styles. Obviously, Osaka's the big hitter. Jabeur is a bit more, let's say, tricky, it could be an interesting one. I think if either of them get through, they have to play either Elise Mertens or either her or a qualifier or lucky loser. So. Maybe it gets a little bit easier for them in the next round. And then Samsonova is the other seed that they would face first. And then further on, you'd have potentially either Jabeur or Osaka playing Coco Gauff in the quarterfinals if Gauff does get that far. So, that could be pretty interesting. As far as the other Asian players in the draw, you've got Yulia Putintseva and Yuan Yue. But also Zhuang Shui, using her protected ranking again. Unfortunately for her, she's drawn against the 15 seed Leila Fernandez. Zhang Shui, who's obviously She's more doubles player, but we talked about before she's on that amazing losing streak.
Right.
Right. Yeah, it doesn't seem like it's going to end this time.
And this week.
I should also mention, though, the hero of the podcast is Mayuka Uchijima. She is in the qualification. She still got to play the second qualifying match, but she did come through from a set down and defeat local favourite who got a wild card into the qualies. Do you know who it was?
Local favourite. So we're talking Canadian. It wasn't Bouchard, was it?
Yeah, Eugenie Bouchard. So
it was. Okay.
Breaking local, hearts maybe, but I mean, I guess she should really be winning that because she's just been playing much more recently, and she's got the quality. Obviously, she's hit a bit of a bump in the road after her great run. As I say, because she didn't. Obviously, we didn't even mention it, but she lost pretty badly in the first round in the Olympics, right? So, but maybe this is a chance for her to do something here. But something to look forward to, especially that Osaka match.
Tennis never ever stops, does it? It just keeps on keeps on going. Okay, any other points you just want to mention? I think we're covered pretty much.
Yeah, I think that's pretty much it. I'd just say we'll probably keep an eye on Canada, and then maybe there's the Challenger tournament going on.
Yeah, now this Olympics nonsense is done with. We can go back to watching Challenger TV in the middle of the night. So okay. Thank you very much for joining me tonight, and I'll enjoy your tennis this week.
Yeah. Cheers.
1-6, 7-6.